Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got a really fascinating stack of material in front of us. We're cracking open the strategic playbook for Moana Pasifika.
That's right. And specifically, their 2026 campaign, which they've given this really evocative title, The Rising Tide.
It sounds ambitious, so what are we looking at here?
Well, it's more than just a slogan. These 15 slides we have, they're an internal analysis. And they frame 2026 as and this is their term, a watershed moment.
A watershed moment.
Exactly. The whole mandate for the franchise is shifting. I mean, they're pivoting away from what was a necessary mission of, pure development.
Right, just getting established.
And now they're setting their sights on becoming legitimate playoff contenders.
Wow. Okay, that is a huge leap in ambition, especially for a team that's still relatively new. So how do they plan to get there? What's the architecture of this plan?
The executive summary lays out three main pillars. The first one is strategic consolidation, which basically means building on the success and credibility they earned last season. Second, and this is a big one, a major roster overhaul.
We'll definitely have to get into that.
And third, a very focused tactical shift, which is all about fixing the consistency problems from 2025. The slow starts, the shaky set pieces.
All right, let's unpack that. It makes sense to start with the foundation because 2025 really did set the stage for this. They had their best ever finish, right? 7th on the ladder.
Yeah, and that finish did more than just boost morale. The sources are really clear that those results cemented their status as sort of unpredictable giant killers.
When they were on, they were really on.
They were spectacular. And you just have to look at the results. They beat the Crusaders 45-29.
A massive win.
They took down the Blues 27-21. And then they just dominated the Waratahs 45-28. I mean, these aren't close wins. They're statement victories.
And here's the part that I found really interesting on the business side of things. That success translated directly into fan engagement. We've got a data nugget here that, frankly, is kind of crazy. It's unbelievable.
Home attendance in 2025 went up by 369%.
369%. When you see a number like that, this isn't just a sports story anymore. It's a business success story. It proves the model is viable.
So the mandate is proven,
yeah.
They belong.
Exactly. So the challenge for 2026 is completely different. It's not about proving they should exist. It's about finding the consistency to go from being those giant killers one week to being genuine contenders every single week.
And consistency isn't something that just happens. You have to build it. So to tackle those, mental lapses and fatigue errors from last season, they've set up this intensive off-season boot camp. It's called the AMA program.
This is a core part of the whole pivot. The AMA program, from what we can see, is a 3-week block. It combines brutal physical conditioning with these high-level leadership and resilience workshops.
So they're forging mental strength under pressure.
That's the idea.
Okay.
And they're targeting one thing specifically, execution under pressure.
Okay, so getting rid of those slow starts. Getting rid of the slow starts. Yeah, by tackling what happens when physical fatigue sets in. That moment, the body gets tired, the brain makes a mistake, and the execution just falls apart.
So it's not just about being fit, it's about being able to execute your skills perfectly when you are exhausted.
Precisely. And Kevin Senio, their talent ID guy, he puts it perfectly. He says success for this program is the ability to do your job, to execute tasks repeatedly when fatigued. If you can't hit a line out in the 70th minute, you're not a contender.
That physical prep is also being paired with a geographical strategy. They're really doubling down on making North Harbor Stadium a fortress.
That's right, the North Harbor Fortress. The thinking is, create a stronghold, minimize travel, capitalize on being at home, and the data backs it up completely.
It does. They won 4 out of 5 games there in 2025. It's their clear home advantage.
And if you look at the 2026 schedule in our sources, they are stacking their home games, a huge block in the middle of the season, round 6, 7, 12, 13, and 15.
And those aren't easy games either. They've got the Crusaders and the Blues coming to visit that fortress.
It's a calculated move.
Yeah.
But you have to wonder, is there a risk there? What happens if that fortress mentality breaks down early? They are banking a lot on those 5 games.
That's a really good point. So the physical and geographical plans are in place, but the team itself is changing a lot. Which brings us to that second pillar, the roster overhaul. And this is where it gets challenging. The departures are huge.
Huge is an understatement. I mean, the challenge is frankly shocking. You're losing your captain, Artie Savea, on sabbatical, a generational talent.
And then you lose your top try scorer, Kyron Tamafala, who got 9 tries last time.
And on top of that, the physicality of the Inisi brothers, Lotu and Faiani, just gone.
Hold on, Artie Savea alone is arguably worth 10 points a game just from his individual brilliance. How can you replace that? This plan says they're trading star power for technical stability. Is that even possible?
That is the million-dollar calculated risk this whole thing is built on. They state very clearly they are not looking for like-for-like replacement.
They can't.
They can't. So they're recruiting to fix specific system weaknesses. The philosophy is that a coordinated, precise structure will eventually be more reliable than just hoping for moments of individual magic.
So they're not buying stars, they're buying tools for a system. Who are the key arrivals?
4 names really stand out as these system fixes. Augustin Pulu, the veteran scrum half, is there for one reason: game management.
To control the pace?
Yep. Nyani Lamape is there for gain line presence, winning the collision. Then you have Israel Leota for strike power. And, maybe most importantly, Mauro Harada has been signed to fix the set piece. It's very targeted.
Let's zoom in on a couple of those because they really tell the story. Let's start with Israel Leota. The slides call him the X Factor, the code switcher. He's coming over from the NRL.
Yeah, and Leota brings that classic rugby league profile. He's big, 1.90 meters, 101 kilos, and his stats from the Q Cup last year they were phenomenal. 20 tries and 21 line breaks.
Both second in the whole competition.
Both second in the comp, so he's a proven finisher. But the other key number is his tackle efficiency, 88.7%.
So he's not just replacing Tomofolo's tries, he's bringing that elite one-on-one defensive grit from league.
Exactly. Tana Umaga has a quote in here that sums it up. A talented young player who has returned to his roots. He's that perfect blend of high potential attack and, drilled-in defensive discipline.
Okay, so that's the X factor. Now for the other side of the coin, structure over flair. Mamoru Harada, the hooker from Japan League One, the technician.
Harada might just be the most important signing of them all. The problem in 2025 was set-piece volatility. That's a nice way of saying their scrum and line-out were all over the place.
Which means you can't launch any attacks.
You can't. Harada is the fix. He brings what they call high repetition precision, which is exactly what the Japanese league is known for. He just does the basics perfectly every single time.
And how does that fit into Umaga's bigger game plan?
He's the absolute anchor for the collision strategy. The plan is to win collisions manually. But you can't do that if your forwards are scrambling out of a messy scrum or a bad lineout. Harada's job is to provide that clean, stable platform time after time.
So this really is about building a machine, not just collecting brilliant parts.
That's the entire philosophy.
Okay, so after all this preparation, the boot camp, the targeted signings, what happens when they actually get on the field? The source material gives us a pretty blunt prediction for round 1.
It does, a very stark prediction. They travel to face the Fijian Drua, and the analysis predicts the Drua will win by 10 points.
Wow. After all that focus on improvement, they're predicted to lose the first game. Why?
Well, the analysis highlights 3 huge immediate hurdles they have to clear in that first match. They all tie back to the very issues they're trying to fix.
Okay, walk us through them.
Factor 1, the heat factor. They're in Lautoka. In February, we're talking 30-plus degrees, intense humidity. The acclimatized Drua squad just has a massive physiological advantage from the first whistle.
A brutal first test for a team that's been working on fighting fatigue.
A brutal test. Factor 2 is the cohesion gap. The Drua are bringing back 13 originals to their squad. Lots of continuity. Moana, on the other hand, is trying to integrate a brand new 9, 10, 12 spine for the very first time.
Your primary decision makers, breaking in a new spine in a pressure cooker environment like Lautoka, that's a massive ask.
It's a huge ask. And the final factor is just venue history. Churchill Park is statistically the hardest place to go and win in Super Rugby Pacific. The Drua have won 10 of their last 12 games there. It is a fortress.
So with the heat, the cohesion gap, the venue, what's the path to an upset? How can Moana possibly win that game?
The strategy is very specific. They have to control territory with their kicking game from Havili and Pin. And critically, they have to slow the breakdown to a crawl.
Stop the transition attack.
Deny the Drua that quick ball. If they can make the game slow, ugly, and turn it into a set-piece battle, they have a chance. And that right there shows you why a technician like Mamoru Harada is suddenly so indispensable.
Fascinating. So this whole pivot to performance is a massive calculated risk. They are betting that discipline and structure drilled into them in that AMA program can outweigh the loss of a superstar like Artie Savea.
It is. They're trading the potential for a moment of magic for, they hope, a much higher, more reliable floor of performance. But that leaves us with the final thought, the big question for you to mull over.
What's that?
Given all this intense preparation to combat fatigue, can the arrival of technicians like Harada and an X-factor like Leota really be enough to offset that immediate cohesion gap and, more importantly, the massive, massive loss of star power like Savea in this quest for the playoffs?
That is the defining question for the Rising Tide. It is a high-stakes gamble, and we'd really encourage you to follow Moana Pasifika's season this year and see if this bold strategic pivot actually pays off.